Let's move on to the next and final one. As you guys know, we've been talking a lot about here in inflation on the show. And I actually think, I'm very proud of the way that we talk about it because it is, in a way, one of the ones that we're most criticized for talking previously. And it's because we simply are willing, I really do believe, in terms of the space on this, the only ones willing to acknowledge the reality of the prices are going up and it's extraordinarily detrimental to ordinary working class people, and at the same time are not going to gaslight you into thinking that it's only because of government spending. Almost 95% of the people who are talking about inflation are doing so because it serves their ideological interests that government spending is the reason why that we're here in the first place. It's interesting, before I even get to the Stephanie Ruhle clip, my friend Joe Weisenthal at Bloomberg News put out a great piece where he rightfully acknowledged that the Trump administration's spending on the Paycheck Protection Program and other government stimulus, which kept supply chains and businesses intact throughout the pandemic, arguably did more to go against inflation than anything that we're even seeing right now, which is those abilities in order to preserve supply chain, preserve business and more, and not cause even more disruption during the reopening phase of our economy, actually tamped down future inflation that we would have seen today through more supply chain disruption. So that's one thing. I'll just put that out on the table. One thing you are not going to see us do is what MSNBC's Stephanie Ruhle did, which is basically say, actually, inflation is totally fine. And these people, they have plenty of money anyways. Let's take a listen.
And the dirty little secret here, Willie, while nobody likes to pay more, on average, we have the money to do so. Household savings hit a record high over the pandemic. We didn't really have anywhere to go out and spend. And as we said a moment ago, we're expecting retail sales this holiday season to break records. For those who own their homes, the value of our homes are up. And while the stock market isn't the economy, you got over half of American households with some investment in the markets, and the markets have hit record highs. So we need to put all of this in perspective. This time last year, when you and I were talking, Willie, nobody had a vaccine. Now 200 million Americans do, and we're seeing this push of demand, and that's pushing up pricing.
There it is. It's the final take of, actually, it's completely fine. No, it's not fine. You can both acknowledge that household savings are high. You can acknowledge that record demand is there because we had a pandemic and people were inside and their consumption habits have dramatically changed. And you can also say, as we repeatedly, that ordinary people are getting slammed by gas prices, food prices, and more. So trying to go out there and justify it, I saw an NBC News op-ed basically say the exact same thing. They were like, actually, inflation is good. It's like, okay, everyone calm down. Well, nothing is good about people having to pay more for ordinary goods.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, she's also, she just rolls out the hits, this lady.
She really does.
And what I appreciate about Stephanie Ruhle is she doesn't try to be anything other than just totally aligned with Wall Street.
Yes.
So that's one of the things that I like about her is the mask is never on. It's just always out there, which I genuinely appreciate. She's also the one who said that a big part of the problem was that the Biden administration wanted to create high-paying jobs and that high-paying jobs fuel inflation. Okay. The problem right now is not that people are earning more money.
Yes.
That is not a problem. That is a good thing. That is a genuinely good thing. We should be happy about that. We should be happy if people are able to save a little bit more. We should be happy if they're able to get a raise right now because the labor market is tight. We should be very happy about those things, and we should encourage them to continue in that direction. The problem is that, okay, we've got a little more money over here. Some people, limited amount, and that's from, a situation where you've had wages stagnant for 40 years, all right? So you get a little bit of a break there. The problem isn't that. The problem is that over here, you had this incredibly fragile supply chain that fell apart when we had a crisis. You've got monopolies. All the things that we've been tracking. You've got monopolies. You've got offshoring to China. So the minute that there's a hiccup with shipping containers and going into and coming out of China, then you've got cascading impacts. You've got climate change that's fueling droughts that are increasing the inputs for all sorts of things from coffee beans to the corn that our cows and our other animals need to consume that's raising meat prices. So those are the issues. The problem is not the people doing a little bit better with their paychecks and their stimulus checks. And I loved those comments from her too about the high-paying jobs. I'm like, how much are you making over there at MSNBC? Are you fueling inflation, Stephanie Ruhle? Are you the problem?
And we'll recall, I worked my butt off I don't
That's
live
right.
on Park Avenue, but I live pretty darn
close.
Okay, well, are you fueling inflation by paying probably, what, $10 million for like a shoebox apartment in New York City? One could argue that. One could argue a lot of things about people who are as wealthy as her and are spending a lot of money on different things and driving prices up for the rest of us. I don't think she thinks often about the people who are, you know, maybe drive her around or give her coffee or something who are getting slammed by the rising price of gas, or even a cup of coffee these days is like 40% more than it was before the pandemic. These are real things that hurt real people. And that's, again, you can acknowledge truths while also just having a bit more compassion and maybe messaging around what's going on. I saw this at the White House. They're doing their damnedest in order to like destroy themselves over there. I just can't believe it. Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, talking about gas prices, basically expressing no plan whatsoever. And it's like, well, if you take the long view, this is why we need renewable energy. Listen, sure, but maybe don't take the long view when people are hurting right now. Just take a listen to what she said.
Just to be clear, and I know that's been a criticism, so that's why I said that, not an accurate one. Look, our view is that the rise in gas prices over the long term makes an even stronger case for doubling down our investment and our focus on clean energy options so that we are not relying on the fluctuations and OPEC and their willingness to put more supply and meet the demand in the market.
I wouldn't even disagree with a single word of that, Krystal.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just the way that the act is internalized. And I can tell you, I saw that thing all over conservative media, is the reason why is people just want to hear you say, we are doing everything we can in order to do it. This, and this. The president feels that this is hurting average Americans every single day, and this is all he thinks about at the very top. And we think it makes the case for X, Y, and Z. If you're not willing to say the first part, they should tune you out. And that's what's happening, which is that we pointed at the poll and began this, that Americans generally feel that the Biden administration is not doing anything about the things that really matter to their lives. And gas is at the very, very top of that agenda.
I mean, listen, she's 100% correct that our dependence on oil is a problem, and it's a problem for everybody.
Right. Especially foreign oil.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, as we know, the oil we create here, it just goes into a global commodities market. The fact that we're dependent on, we're never going to be as big of a producer as OPEC and have control of the market. We're going to talk to Ken Klippenstein about exactly what is going on there and how we may be being punished right now by Saudi for Biden not wanting to meet with MBS. So we'll get into a little bit more specifics of the oil market. But this is actually a common problem for sort of climate change policy, is that when people feel like they're under stress today, telling me 30 years in the future you have a solution
get out of here
is not really that fulfilling right then in the moment when you're like, yeah, but I got to fill up my tank this afternoon and be able to do that and pay for the groceries and get to my job. And what you're telling me about your plans, good, that's great. I hope that helps my kids 20, 30 years from now. But that's not helping me get through this particular week. And so I do think it is kind of even worse than I thought with the Biden administration because the one thing he had going for him was some pretty decent instincts around what people really cared about, what they don't care about, this sense of, you know, his ability to kind of emotionally connect with the middle class. And any of that is just seems pretty far gone.
Really terrible. And both optics in terms of the way that they're handling this, and if this is the tactic, you should not be surprised by the red wave in 2022 whatsoever.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it, you get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.